Are you wondering about how do you get those beautiful cinematic shots you see on Instagram and YouTube? You know, those crispy, clear, beautiful travel films on YouTube? Well,
let me show you.
Here are 3 tips to get beautiful cinematic shots with whatever gear you have, may it be a smartphone, a point and shoot, a DSLR, whatever. You can do this with any kind of gear you have. So let's get started.
Shall we?
Tip 1 is composition. Before you even pick up the camera, make sure to really understand composition first. Understand and learn about concepts like the rule of thirds, negative spaces, color contrast, and a ton of other techniques to frame your shots well. Check out awesome YouTube channels like Every Frame a Painting, DSLR Guide, Film Riot, Nerdwriter to understand composition and how storytelling works. So before you do anything, check that out to get cinematic shots. Now, tip 2 is using shallow depth of field. The cinematic look has been characterized by shots with shallow depth of field. Now, what I mean by this is a shot where you have your foreground, which is in focus, and you have a background that is really blurred out. People call it many things. You might have heard it as the bokeh effect, the depth effect, etc. To get shots with shallow depth of field, you need to reduce the f-stop number in your DSLR. The f-stop number represents how open or closed your aperture is. A lower f-stop number gives you a shallow depth of field as opposed to a higher f-stop number. Also remember, don't overuse shots with shallow depth of field because at a certain point it starts looking cheap. Make sure you have a good balance between shallow depth of field and a wider depth of field. Now, tip 3 is using movement in your shots. A static shot, on a tripod, there's nothing wrong with it, but sometimes it tends to look a bit boring if what you're capturing is mundane, right? So try to add in a bit of cinematic movement into your shots. It could be anything from a simple pan, a tilt, a dolly, to a jib shot. Just remember the types of shots and know where to use what. Practice as much as possible. Go out, experiment, and try to shoot everything you can and get better. I hope this helped you guys. Thank you for watching. This is Sound of the Shutter. I'll see you in the next video.